All right, good morning and welcome to the channel. My name is Jay. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I work with clients all around the U.S., around 700 to 1,000 people a year, and that's people with or without a criminal record. One of the things I want to talk about today is HUD is now going to be changing policies towards those that have a felony. Many people, whether they're in low-income housing, Section 8, or have a voucher, have struggled with criminal records, whether it be minor infractions or something that may have happened 30 years ago. So to fix the problem, Marcia Fudge over at the Housing Authority, which was led by Joe Biden, the president currently, she's decided to reverse course on felonies and misdemeanors. And it won't just affect the Housing Authority. This will also affect landlords that accept vouchers nationwide. So one of the things I'm going to go over is some of the critical details. So HUD is making it easier for Americans with a criminal record to find housing. In about 6 months, HUD will produce new guidelines and a model with documentation on such of how leases should be carried out with felonies. The move would impact all federally funded housing programs, including public housing, project-based housing, subsidized housing, rental assistance, and voucher programs. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is working to make it easier for people with a criminal record to find housing across the complete market, as we can see. This move would implement or have implications on 1 in 3 Americans. And I know that personally from working with a lot of people that have criminal records or those that know of somebody that does. In a memo sent out to staff Tuesday, HUD Secretary Marcia Fudge instructed the department to review programs and policies that may pose barriers to housing for persons with a criminal history or their families, which means a lot of you have children. So you're a senior, you have maybe grown children that may have a record that you have been trying to get in your own home. Fudge also told staffers they have 6 months to propose the updates and amendments consistent with the directive to make the policies as inclusive as possible. In other words, they're going to make this happen. To what extent is still a little bit unclear. Another thing I want to bring up is among the many things that HUD staffers will be looking at are the guidance in documentation, model leases, and other agreements. So as you may be aware, there are many different various ways that you can utilize programs, Section 8, subsidies, and the many types of programs that are out there. So this will be something that will be broadband and across the full spectrum. Some federal laws ban people convicted of certain crimes from accessing publicly funded housing programs, including anyone convicted of a methamphetamine, production on the premises of a federally assisted housing program, lifetime registered sex offenders, and people convicted of drug possession. That means that any changes would impact some of the agency's most widespread programs, including federally funded public housing authorities and rental assistance program known as Section 8. The move is part of a wider effort led by the White House to advance racial equity after President Joe Biden issued an executive order last year mandating all federal agencies identify potential barriers facing underserved communities to enroll and access federal benefit programs. Ms. Fudge went on to say that HUD could not ignore the fact that people of color have been historically underrepresented in the criminal justice system. We must understand the potential discriminatory impact and exclusions based on criminal history can also play a factor basically on protected classes. So, going a little bit statistical details, roughly 70 million to 100 million Americans have a criminal record, which is roughly 1/4 of the nation, or about a third of they say a third of the nation. According to the FBI, of these, 19 million have a felony. So that's, I don't know, 19 million out of what, about 400 million people? About 10%. So, as reported by the Prison Policy Initiative and the nonpartisan think tank based on East Hampton, Massachusetts. So statistical data, basically. And I'm going to go over some factors we've probably heard many times across news is that Black Americans are incarcerated at a rate of 5 times higher than white and Latino counterparts and are more likely than whites to be incarcerated. So there's a higher propensity for African American or Black Americans to acquire criminal history just because of the way the system has been set up over a very long and arduous, tenuous history in our country. Uh, Tim Thomas is a researcher at the University of California, Berkeley Urban Displacement Project. He said that oversight and screening policies by federally funded housing providers can disproportionately harm Black and brown people. Housing is an important component of any recovery of the for your so it's an important component basically to get this resolved. And so people, though the many people that are being affected by this, will be able to get back on their feet and be able to get into this into housing because having people out there homeless, no matter what color you are, is a big issue. Fudge gave a directive to the agency builds on, again, HUD's 2016 memo under the Obama administration, which cautioned housing providers that overly broad criminal history-based policies could result in disparaging in impact. And it has in many factors. I've watched this over 20 years, so I do know. Many private landlords also refuse to provide housing to people with criminal records. People with criminal records are not a protected class under the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which was a landmark law that made it illegal to discriminate against people from renting or buying or securing a mortgage or seeking housing assistance. As written by law, this protects people from discrimination only on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, and family marital status. The ending result often affects the entire family, as women, children, grandparents, siblings can be denied housing if they live with a relative who has a criminal record. So, looking back on this, I think there's a case to be made for offering that with a record of protection under the Fair Housing Act. That if we don't start absolving some of the issues and the heavy consequences behind criminal records and housing, then it's going to exacerbate the problem, and we can't have everybody homeless. So I'm going to take a look here real quick. At least we got one person today, so I know it's Mother's Day. I picked an obvious day, I think, clearly to make the video. So I'm glad the few of you that can join me. So, if you or somebody that has a criminal record, or maybe you've got a brother, a sister, a child, a sibling, or even a grandparent that's struggling with housing and a conviction, then I would encourage you to get in touch with me. There are consultants out here that deal with this. As an example, I had a gentleman that I believe was convicted of bank robbery at the federal level. Of course, robbing a bank is a federal crime, and he did about a decade, and we managed to get him housing, a couple of months later. So it's not impossible. You can't just throw your hands up in this because living on the sidewalk, living under a bridge, and trying to rely on homeless shelters as a method of housing is not a safe way to do it. For those of you that have a criminal record, you just need your own home anyways. So I'm going to post a few links. I do specialize in people that deal with have criminal convictions and other issues related to that make your housing search difficult. And I think towards later this year they'll pass probably legislation on this, and it'll be a new mandate, and then we'll try to work through whatever loopholes we can get through. So what I'm going to do is give you information, appointments, prices, and website. Again, I'm not here to sell you anything. This is just for those of you that have a hard time navigating housing, or maybe you have a criminal history and you need help. So, all right. So I posted up a couple links there for the few that have joined us today. Now I'm going to go on to talk about one other thing. Primary factors right now, they are blocking where people have been convicted of methamphetamine. Those that have drug convictions, the perilous part of that. And so that's rather hard to get around, especially if you're a sex offender. So it's especially hard to be able to utilize vouchers. But I had a lot of people come into the channel and say, oh, you with a criminal record, you can't. But yes, you can. You most certainly can. There's nothing preventing that. I'm not saying that it would be easy with a landlord or easy with the housing authority, but it's certainly possible. Now, moving on from that, I always like to inject a little bit of my personal life into my videos. So I want to tell you about what happened yesterday. I have a grill, a brand new one I put together. It's about $300, and it's not the fanciest model. And I put the rubber glove, you put like you do with your oven, and about $50 worth of grilling tools in that grill on the top shelf where you normally would put your toast and all that. And, my mind's twirling and working because, I'm thinking about people's cases. And I put that sucker on 500 to heat it up, walked away, came back to the porch. Porch is on fire, grill's on fire. The glove melted into the grill, and I think I just wrecked that. It burnt my finger, and I stepped on a cat's tail. Of course, the cats are all curious, so the bigger the flame, the more my cats are popping around like popcorn, wondering what the hell's going on. And so I almost burnt the house down yesterday, just trying to think. Now, that does not make me a bad consultant. It just shows you how shitty life can be. So right now, anything that I grill on that grill is going to taste like a rubber glove. So it's terrible, I guess, but interesting. Another thing I want to show you guys, a lot of you have wondered since I moved from the 4-bedroom house. As you all know, there's an overheated housing market, and put the house on the market. And so here we are. So if you sell in a good market, you make money. But if you also try to buy in the same market you sell, you made a foolish mistake because everything you made, you'll spend. So we've got a small cabin on a horse ranch. It's very small. So I wanted to give you all a new view now that I had a chance to do some of the gardening and all that. Most of you know that I do consulting work from my home. It's not necessary to run a corporate office and all that. Not anymore anyway. So I'm going to give you a peer out the window so you can kind of see the world as it is. So it's not too bad, as you can see. And I'll show you my little office setup here. Most of you have never seen it. All right. And here we go. There you go. You got a little picture of the my little office space. A little bit of decor in there, and kind of a nice country view with a wooden fence out there. So I always have, I love the one thing about this is you have a great view. So, anyways, looks like we got 1 or 2 comments here. Bonaressa, good morning. How are you? So, all right, guys. Well, we talked a little bit about felony records, the changes coming up probably in 4 to 6 months. Whether or not you guys would need assistance, whether it's a family member and so on, to get in touch with me. I posted a couple links there. And I think it's certainly possible at this point to get more people in housing, especially after HUD makes those changes. So, all right. So I'm going to wish all you mothers out there a happy Mother's Day. If this is you view this video at a later time, just know this was a live video on Mother's Day, and I wanted to wish all you ladies happy Mother's Day. And I look forward to seeing you. Now, I'm going to let you know that we do post videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, unless something different happens. Okay. So I've enjoyed speaking with y'all, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.